Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 4 2018 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic, the season continues to be a very big struggle. For yours truly, I feel like with how the season's gone on, I feel like a great analogy here would be the Stranger Things. For anybody that watches the show Stranger Things, I feel like this season so far has been considered the upside down in terms of where a lot of the things you go from week to week change on an instant, and everything that you had preconceived up through 1 week gets changed in a way that automatically makes you rethink everything else going into the next week. Because that's how bizarre and weird this season has been. It's been a very fun season because of that, because a lot of the teams that you thought were going to be bad turned out really well. A lot of teams you thought they were going to be well turned out bad. A lot of teams that surprised you good. A lot of teams that surprised you bad. And that's great for entertainment and great for the fans of football. But as someone that likes to pick games, I will honestly say I've done a bad job for the first 3 weeks. And my records indicate that. So last week or so far this week, I am 4-11 against the spread, and straight up I am 6-9. So for the first time in for the first time in several years, through 3 weeks, I am actually below 500 straight up. Being below 500 against the spread doesn't surprise me, because over last year I was pretty much below 500 through the entire year. Until the very end, where I got on a good roll for a few weeks. So now against the spread, I am 18-28-1 against the spread, which equals 39.3%. And straight up, for the first time in several years, I am 22-23-2 straight up, which equals 48.8% straight up. That is a abysmal record for how I pride myself in my straight up picks. Everybody out there that's watching, it's fun, but I'm hoping to get better, and I know for a lot of other people that have similar records a little bit better, and I can guarantee you for all the prognosticators out there, this has been a weird year, because going through 3 weeks, this is not the records or the type of records that you expect to see through all the games. But hey, look, at least you get a lot of fun surprises and a lot of great storytelling to go through each one of your weeks. So that's how I am against the spread. Entering this last point at the quarter mark, I'm hoping to get a nice surge. I know I've said it the last couple weeks. I'm hoping to get a nice surge to improve my stock to at least get above 500 straight up and work my way to getting 500 against the spread. So I am going to go straight into my picks, and this video this week will be a bit shortened, because I have a lot of stuff to do with my schooling. I have to get that ready, but I will make sure to get my picks and give as many explanations or all the explanations of the games very quickly. But time for my picks. So this Thursday, when the 1-1-1 Minnesota Vikings go to the 3-0 Los Angeles Rams, the LA Rams are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here straight up, but I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings plus 6.5. And then on Sunday, when the 2-1 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 6-point favorites in this game. I like the Atlanta Falcons here -6, and the Atlanta Falcons straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-1 or 3-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 2-1 Chicago Bears, this game is a pick'em right now against the spread. So right now, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears against the spread, and the Chicago Bears straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-2 Detroit Lions go to the 1-2 Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Detroit Lions here +3, and the Detroit Lions straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-2 Buffalo Bills go to the 1-1-1 Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Packers are 10-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo here +10, but Green Bay straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-1 Philadelphia Eagles go to the 2-1 Tennessee Titans, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia here minus 3.5, and Philadelphia straight up. Then the next game, when the 0-3 Houston Texans go to the 1-2 Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Indianapolis here minus 2.5, and Indianapolis straight up. Then the next game, in one of the weirdest records that you would think through 3 games, when the 3-0 Miami Dolphins go to the 1-2 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Miami here plus 7, but New England straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-2 New York Jets go to the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Jacksonville Jaguars here to win straight up, but I'm taking the New York Jets plus 7.5. Then the next game, when the 1-1 Cleveland Browns go to the 0-3 Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are 3-point favorites in this game. For the first time in a long time, I am going to take the Cleveland Browns against the spread here, plus 3, and the Cleveland Browns straight up to win a football game. That is a rarity, and maybe hopefully for Browns fans, I continue to pick them as long as they continue to play well and continue to win. So there's my pick for that game. And then the next game, when the 1-2 Seattle Seahawks go to the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Seattle here minus 3, and Seattle straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-1 New Orleans Saints go to the 1-2 New York Giants. New Orleans Saints are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like New Orleans here minus 3.5, and New Orleans straight up. Then the next game, when the when the 1-2 San Francisco 49ers go to the 1-2 Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are 10-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Chargers here minus 10, and the LA Chargers straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-1 Baltimore Ravens go to the 0-2-1 or 1-1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is a pick'em right now, but I am going to take the Baltimore Ravens against the spread in a little bit of an upset, or in a little bit of a rarity for this rivalry so far over the last few years. I'm going to take Baltimore against the spread, and Baltimore straight up. Then on the Monday night game, when the 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 2-1 Denver Broncos. The Kansas City Chiefs are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Kansas City here minus 4.5, and Kansas City straight up. Alright, so time for my quick thoughts on each game. These are going to go probably, like I said, a little bit quicker, so but here we go. The LA Rams to beat the Minnesota Vikings. This is one of those incidents where when you watch what happened on Sunday between the Bills and the Vikings, the largest against the spread upset in 20 or it was like 15 or 20 years. The Bills were 17-point dogs going into the game against the Vikings, and the Buffalo Bills, after the first quarter, basically had won the game. Kirk Cousins had fumbled back-to-back drives. Josh Allen had scored 3 touchdowns total. Chris Ivory had about 100-plus yards from scrimmage, and the Vikings just looked completely lost. And it was stunning to watch that, and the Bills didn't even have LaShawn McCoy. So, you're looking at that and going, what happened to the Vikings, and are the Bills as bad? Like, it elevated the Bills, saying the Bills are not a bad football team as everybody thought they were, and the Vikings may not be as good. And look, I know they didn't have Dalvin Cook, and I know they didn't have Everson Griffin, which were big, but you can't explain that kind of effort or that kind of lack of effort or lack of execution in the ways of losing that game that way to what a lot of people thought was the worst team in the league. And with it being a short week and Dalvin and Everson being probably down to the wire for getting cleared for the Thursday game, they're not going to play, and that's not going to help. And that's why I'm going to take the Rams. Like, the Rams are 3-0 for the first time since 2001, and they've scored 30-plus points for the first time in all 3 of their first games since 2001 as well. Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, and that entire offense looks fluent, efficient. It looks just as good as everybody thought it was. The defense has been pretty solid as well, though they do have the Aqib Talib ankle and Marcus Peters calf injuries to look for, and that is significant in that way, in my opinion. But with how the Vikings are playing, with how short a week it is, I feel like the Rams should be able to put up enough points offensively to hold off against the Vikings. They're not going to be able to run the ball that well, especially with Dalvin Cook being out. And Matt Boone was the primary ball carrier that I saw, which was surprising, because you would have thought Latavius Murray would have had a shot. But with that short week, with the limited offensive, with the running game, and just the confidence of the Vikings right now, I got to take the Rams in this one, just because I feel like they're going to be on a consistent roll, and I feel like they can pull a Saints or Chiefs type victory where they can just outscore the Vikings, because I feel like the Vikings are a little frazzled. The Rams have enough talent offensively to control the clock and move the football, and I don't think the Vikings will be able to score enough on the Rams defense, even with their injuries, to win the game. Should be a great game, though, and the reason why I'm taking the Vikings is the Vikings are motivated to show that that's not the team that is more common for this Vikings team this year than not. So that's why I like the LA Rams here, straight up, and I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings plus 6.5. The next game, Atlanta over the Bengals. This one is really tough because if you really look at this game, Cincinnati, they laid a proverbial they turned back into the orange pumpkin that they are. Andy Dalton went from having two of the best games of his career to throwing 4 interceptions, and most of them were pretty bad. Christian McCaffrey Christian McCaffrey ran for 180 yards. Cam Newton accounted for about another 180 yards himself and 4 total touchdowns. And it was just a complete debacle of the Bengals, to where people like me fell for the they drank the orange Kool-Aid a bit too quickly, and the Agent Orange died out and made the Bengals, who they thought they were, that they weren't as good. But this game is really tough because Atlanta is defensively getting clobbered right now with all their injuries. They just lost. They don't have Deion Jones right now. He is on IR to return. You have Keanu Neal out for the year. Ricardo Allen is out for the year. Tack McKinley is day-to-day. Devontae Freeman's not going to probably play this game. And you just saw that defense this past Sunday give up 43 points to the New Orleans Saints, where they were in a shootout. The Matt Ryan had one of his best career games, and he had 5 total touchdowns, 370 yards. They scored the most points in that rivalry ever, and the Falcons ended up losing the game. So that's kind of the weird thing. The Bengals, they have a little more defensive talent, even though I know they just lost Ryan Glasgow, one of their defensive tackles for the year, to an ACL injury. But this is one of those things where I feel like if Atlanta, can make a stop, or if Carolina can get turnovers with their kind of weak secondary, the way it is, in my opinion, or a weaker secondary, I feel like Atlanta can get 1 or 2 turnovers from Andy Dalton that lets the Falcons score and be able to win this game. I think they'll be able to control the ball pretty well with Telvin Coleman, who's been a pretty effective runner since Devontae Freeman's been out. And I just feel like the Falcons will be able to score enough points and be desperate enough in this kind of situation where the AFC North is a little bit more tighter knit. Or let me put it this way: the NFC South has a lot more competitive, talented teams than the AFC North right now, because you have the Browns have 1 win, the Steelers don't have any, and the Bengals, are in first place, tied with the Ravens at 2-1. That the Falcons are desperate to get this victory at home. They've already lost to the Saints at home, and they almost could have lost to Carolina. They need a big win like this just to get back to 500 and show some confidence. Because if they start out 1-3, you pretty much can count out the Falcons being out of the division race, in my opinion. But I feel like they'll get this one done. That desperation, along with that offensive clicking, and just knowing what the Bengals are going through. They're going back on the road and back-to-back road games. They're going inside, but I just feel like Andy Dalton will play like the Andy Dalton that we know, and he'll make one mistake or not be able to make one throw that lets the Falcons win this game. So that's why Atlanta here -6, and Atlanta straight up. The next game, Chicago over Tampa. This is really hard for me because I'm one of those people that always enjoys seeing Ryan Fitzpatrick play well, because it's one of those weird things about it that, like, if you just tell Ryan Fitzpatrick just to play football, he can do it well enough. And if you tell him with no pressure, if he's just the quarterback that gets to play, he does things like this. If you look at what Ryan Fitzpatrick has done, he's the first quarterback in NFL history to have back-to-back games to start the year with 400 yards and 4+ touchdowns in both the opening games. He's just playing because he's just having fun. Like, he has no pressure on him from anybody in the media. anybody, in Tampa, any fans, because that's who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's one of the best backups in the NFL, and you just tell him to play football, he can do it well. But here's the thing, he's played so well, and Jameis Winston has underachieved so much that he is going to be the long-term starter for the Buccaneers moving forward, starting next week against the Bears. And that's my problem with that, is that Tampa is going into Chicago, where Chicago is becoming the NFC version, in my opinion, of Jacksonville, where that defense is going to carry that team to a good amount of victories, especially with Khalil Mack, who is the Defensive Player of the Year right now, and there's really nobody else second, in my opinion, that can try to reach him. But it's one of those things that I feel like, again, Fitzpatrick now knows that if he can play a decent enough game, he is the long-term starter. Now the expectations are on him to play well and to be effective. And just going up against this defense, seeing what they've done against Aaron Rodgers in the first half of week 1, seeing what they did to Russell Wilson and just clobbering him for multiple sacks in that pick 6 to kill him, and seeing what happened in the Arizona game, that after the first 2 drives for the Cardinals, the Bears just basically shut down their entire offense at that point afterward, and Fitzpatrick's added expectations, I think the Bears pick up this victory. But I'd be surprised if Tampa won? No, because I feel like, again, Tampa's been more consistently offensively, and they have a solid enough defense to be effective, though their secondary is a bit banged up right now, and their front 7 is a little weak. But I'm going to take the Bears here because they are at home. I feel like this defense will get the Ryan Fitzpatrick, or Ryan Fitzmagic, whatever you like to call him, and I think they'll turn him back into Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the Bears are able to win this game. I don't think, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to look Nathan Peterman-like or, that bad, or Blaine Gabbert. I think he'll play decently enough. The Bucs can be encouraged. But I just think the Bears at home, that defense, that running game, Trubisky trying to gain some momentum against that weakened secondary, I think the Bears pull off this victory. So that's why I like Chicago here against the spread, and Chicago straight up. Detroit over Dallas. The reason why I'm taking Detroit in this game, for me, it's very simple. Detroit has looked the most consistent. And they also beat the Patriots in a game that very few people expected the Patriots to lose. And they played in a way that they were the better team from beginning to end. I would congratulate Kerryon Johnson for ending the 70-game streak of having no Lions running back gain 100 yards. The last 100-yard running back was Reggie Bush on Thanksgiving in 2013, so congratulations to Lions fans. But just seeing the Lions over the last couple weeks, they've been more consistent. They've played more solid football, and I will trust that over the Dallas Cowboys, who, have a solid defense, but have a very lackluster passing offense that is probably, in my opinion, the worst passing offense in the league. If they could hold Tom Brady to 105 yards, or about 109 yards, a touchdown and interception, what are they going to do against Dak Prescott, who has thrown for under 200 yards in 5 straight games? In 9 of his last 11 games, he's thrown under 200 yards. You could try to run the ball. The Lions' run defense has not been very good. They let Crowell and Corral and Powell to have over 100 yards. Matt Breida had over 100 yards. But they were able to shut down Sony Michel, James White, and they're going to put all their effort into Zeke. And that's what I would do if I were the Lions. I'd just shut down Zeke, try to limit him as much as they could. And even if he does get over 100 yards, look at what happened against the Seahawks yesterday. Zeke goes for 16 carries, $125 plus, and the Cowboys still lose the game by 11 because they can't pass the ball. And if they can shut down the Pats offense with Tom Brady, they definitely can do that with Dak Prescott. And that is the one thing I will take into this game at home. The Cowboys' home field is really not that impressive. It's not. You can go into Dallas and win games. I do think it'll be more low scoring because I do believe in that Dallas defense to be the stronger unit of the 3 units the Cowboys have. But with the Lions getting that victory, with how consistent they've shown over the last 2 weeks, and just seeing how dysfunctional Dallas' offense is, I got to take Detroit in this game just off those reasons. I think it'll be an interesting game. I feel like Detroit kind of has the Jacksonville effect on them this week. Detroit had such a big victory. You could argue it's Matthew Stafford's biggest win as a quarterback in his NFL career, beating Tom Brady. I could see them having a letdown here against the Cowboy team. But with how bad the Cowboys have been, with some of the defensive injuries they had, Sean Lee was out for the game a while, so now you got to watch him again. I think the Lions are going to find a way to pull out this W. So that's why I like Detroit here +3 and Detroit straight up. The next game, Green Bay over Buffalo. This one to me, I'm taking Green Bay because I think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will do a better job than they did this past week against Alex Smith. Alex Smith's a decent quarterback, and the weapons that Alex Smith was using were pretty effective. I don't think they're going to have to face an Adrian Peterson type running back who's going to get about 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bills receivers, I think the Packers will be able to play more coverage. If that makes sense, they'll be able to play more coverage and not have wide open holes, unlike the Vikings did. And I just think that, again, this is one of those things that the Bills, they had their big upset victory, and they're basically almost in the same situation again. They only added 7 points to the Bills being underdogs, even after that big upset of the year so far. But I'm taking the Packers here because I believe in Aaron Rodgers enough to play well. The Packers are almost unstoppable at home, and I don't think Josh Allen will have that effective of a game, and I don't think the Bills' defense will play that well and cause that many turnovers against Aaron Rodgers to get the Bills to victory in the game. I will take the Bills against the spread because, again, I think from what you saw out of the Bills, they are a competitive team, and with how the Packers are playing right now, with how limited that defense is, if they find some laps or Clay Matthews hits Josh Allen and he gets flagged for the 4th straight week in a row, the Bills can make this game competitive. But with where Green Bay is in the division, with what they're facing at with Chicago, they're going to find a way to pull together behind Rodgers' arm and be able to make enough stops defensively or play their assignments more effectively to win this game and get themselves to 2-1-1 on the year. It should be an interesting game because I feel like it's a carbon copy of the Viking game. Just different quarterback, different team, and losing Muhammad Wilkerson to an ankle injury is big. He probably won't play. But I'm taking the Packers here. Too much at Lambeau. And I feel like the Packers, they're going to learn from the Vikings' mistakes and not underestimate the Bills and play them in a good way to win the game. So that's like Green Bay here straight up, but Buffalo +10. Next game, the Eagles over Tennessee. This is one of those games where Tennessee is that irritating team. Shout out to Keith Bailey. Sorry, but congratulations for being first place in the AFC South. But Tennessee is that irritating football team that nobody can understand. Nobody can understand how you can have a solid defense, play pretty effective football, but an offense that makes, you feel like you're playing back in the 1970s. They're winning. Blaine Gabbert's 2-0, ladies and gentlemen, for the year. And the sad thing is Blaine Gabbert got knocked out of the first quarter because of a concussion due to Calais Campbell, I believe. And then Marcus Mariota comes in. He only throws for 100 yards on a day, and they win the game. They really didn't run the ball that well. And the Titans defense, which played a Jacksonville team that just 1 week ago put up over 30 points against the Patriots, only held the Jags to 6. And that was basically all the same receivers in the same situation. You could argue, well, they didn't have Cam Robinson, but I don't think having Cam Robinson would have made that much of a difference, to tell you the honest truth. But that's the weird thing about the Titans, that they're a weird team like the Dolphins now. They just find ways to win. It's not pretty, it's not notable, it's not even sometimes logical how that can happen against the teams they're playing, but they are winning games and being effective, so congrats to the Titans. But with that being said, I am taking the Philadelphia Eagles in this game because I can believe in Carson Wentz. I can believe in the talent they have offensively and defensively to be able to score enough points against the Titans that the Titans can't match against the Philadelphia defense. Andrew Luck only threw for about 170 yards yesterday against the Eagles generally. If Mariota threw for 100 against Jacksonville, you could argue that Mariota may have just about the same amount of yards against the Eagles defense this coming Sunday. And that's the thing. I don't think that kind of performance from Mariota will be enough because I do believe the Eagles will shut down the running game of Henry and Lewis. And just because of Carson's ability to make plays, to be able to make extensive plays, to have better tight end play, to to have more playmakers. I'm going to take the Eagles to win because of that reason. The spread was 3.5. That was that might be a little bit too big, but I'm going to trust the Eagles here to be able to find a way to win this game off of like last-second touchdown or in a decisive enough way that if the Eagles score 17, 20 points, they should be able to win that game because I do not see the Titans matching that score. So that's why I like Philadelphia minus 3.5, but Philadelphia straight up. Next game, the Colts over Houston. This is a game where basically Houston hasn't won, and I can't trust that. Houston hasn't won. They look up and down. Really, the only thing that's been impressive or consistent has been their kicker. J.J. Watt he had his best game in 3 years. But even with that, they really can't do anything that much. Like, it's weird. Deshaun Watson looks like he's regressed. He's lost now 3 straight games, and now they dropped to 3-6. And the last two games, he's thrown horrible red zone picks, which might have turned around the game. Would I be surprised, if Houston won this game? No, because Houston's shown, for the most part, to be a competitive team. But at least with Indy, they almost beat Philadelphia. They beat Washington pretty decisively. And then week 1, they should have beaten Cincinnati. I've been more impressed with the Colts' competitiveness and consistency compared to Houston's, and Indy does have that victory from wire to wire. And that's why I'm taking them. It's a home game for them. This is a Colts team that kind of, they've, over the last couple of years, Houston's been able to kind of take advantage of them and win games in this series. But with Andrew Luck coming back, of Indy's confidence, I'm taking the Colts to win because I have enough confidence in them to pull out this victory just because of Andrew Luck, and the Colts will be able to make enough plays that the Texans won't. And one last thing on this game, I believe Bill O'Brien will be fired at the end of this year. It is an absolute disgrace that I'm trying to think what it's not Bob McNair. Rick Smith, or whoever the new general manager is, because Rick Smith right now is helping his wife go through cancer. I thought it was an absolute disgrace that Bill O'Brien got a 5-year extension from the Houston Texans. For what? I ask any Houston Texans. Why did Bill O'Brien get a 5-year extension? He's a Belichick guy. The highest number of wins he's had in a year is 9-7. And the only reason why I gave him a pass for last year was because he had moved up the ladder every year from a winning record to a playoff appearance to a playoff win to having his bad record. But see, this is where the year where he should have tried to get 8 or more wins and not have gotten that long-term security if he didn't achieve it. And right now he is underachieving at an incredibly low level. And again, I think if this continues, if they drop to 0-4, it'll be time for Bill O'Brien to get fired. That's why I get Indianapolis here minus 2.5, and Indianapolis straight up. The next game, New England over Miami. This is one of those games where it's hard not to pick the Patriots. It's hard not to pick the Patriots in this situation. They're going to be at home. They hopefully might be able to get some of their defensive players back. It's a division game. Ryan Tannehill has never beaten the Patriots at home. And I just think that the Patriots are going to be desperate. The Patriots are going to play like the Lions did yesterday, where they know that, if the Dolphins get this one, they go to 4-0, the Patriots may be in serious jeopardy of losing that division for the first time in several years. And I just can't go against that with the Dolphins. Like, the Dolphins have been one of the weirdest surprises. It's been a nice surprise, and I was wrong. I thought the Dolphins were going to be the worst team in the NFL with everything that moved on. And that's the great thing about the NFL. They prove you wrong. And they've been one of the more consistent teams. They're actually better. They're tied with, Kansas City. And they're the most unassuming, undefeated team left. Nobody cares about the Dolphins. Nobody pays attention. They're like the Titans. But the one thing I will give the Dolphins is they play consistent football. Like, you can watch Dolphins games, and every week you get the same product week after week after week. And I like that in a team. And I want to commend the Dolphins staff. I want to commend Adam Gase for playing solid and consistent football through the first 3 weeks. And the Dolphins should be given credit for a very good start, a start that nobody, especially me, expected. But I'm taking the Patriots here because I think that desperation will kick in. I think Josh Gordon will play, which will be a huge factor. And I think the Dolphins, they'll be motivated. They're going to try to knock them out. But I don't think they'll be able to be that successful with it. It should be a great game. I'm taking the Dolphins +7 because the Patriots over the last 2 weeks, that defense has looked like the Matt Patricia defense that we saw in the beginning of the year. Not that effective. You could argue, again, it's Bill Belichick in September. It's his worst month of the year. And all that. But I'm taking the Patriots here because I just have to believe that they are going to find a way to pull out this victory, get the 500, and put themselves back in, some standing within the AFC East. So that's why I like New England here, but Miami +7. The next game, Jacksonville over the Jets. This is one where basically I trust the Jacksonville defense to cause more turnovers to Sam Darnold than I trust the Jets defense to hold the Blake Bortles offense. That's what it is. I feel like this spread, when it came out, it was 7.5 points. That was way too high for these two types of teams. Last year, the Jets pulled off the upset in New York, very notably. I remember, the Coney Ely pick, which basically sealed the game. But I'm taking the Jags here because I think Sam Darnold's going to make more mistakes, or is going to make enough mistakes against this secondary and defense that the Jags will be able to score enough points to win this game. It's going to be low scoring. It may not be that effective because the Jets defense has been pretty solid, for the first few games. It's been a solid defense. And I can see Blake Bortles having his struggles. It's Blake Bortles. Through 3 weeks, he's had 2 average to below average games and 1 career game against New England. But I'm taking the Jags here because I'm going to trust that defense to cause more turnovers on Sam Darnold than the Jets defense giving up points to Blake Bortles. So that's why I like the New York Jets here +7.5, but the Jaguars straight up. The next game, the Browns over Oakland. Congratulations to Cleveland. For the first time in over 630 days, the Cleveland Browns had won a football game. They won 21-17 over the Jets. It was a great moment. I'm happy for all the people in Cleveland. I was a little upset personally because I was a Sam Darnold fan, and I was sad to see that. But congratulations to Cleveland. Congratulations to Baker Mayfield getting named the starting quarterback for the Browns this week. I thought he looked fantastic. I thought he looked efficient, and it felt very much to me like Jalen Hurts, the Tua Tagovailoa in the 2018 National Championship game, because as soon as Baker Mayfield came in that game, the whole offense turned around, and that entire team got energized that quickly by Baker Mayfield. And by the way, Baker getting the start, no surprise. Tyrod, you could argue if you're a Tyrod supporter that he should be 2-0 if it wasn't for your kickers. Fair enough, but Tyrod won 15 of 40 for about 170 yards the first game, and then the last game he won 4 of 14 for 14 yards against the Jets defense. So yeah, it was time for Tyrod to go, and best of luck to Baker in his new venture. But I'm taking the Browns here because the Raiders just cannot find ways to win. The Raiders have been able to outscore their opponents. I think they said 35-17 in the first quarter, but they've been outscored by 40 points in the fourth quarter. This is a team that can play well in the beginning, but they can't close at the end. And honestly, Oakland's not a hard place to play. They're just kind of going up and down. Cleveland's been a consistent team. They played 3 consistent, solid games of football, which I like. And I'm just going to trust Baker Mayfield going up against an Oakland defense with very little pass rush. And with the talents he has, I think he'll be able to find a way to win this game. It's weird. It's a rarity that people that pick games pick the Browns, but the Browns have been more consistent. They finally had that victory that now I can, have the confidence to get that win, to pick them again. But we will see. It should be an interesting game, and let's be honest here. If the Oakland Raiders win this game, that'd be the most Cleveland thing to do. Right after they get one win, they go back on the losing streak. Sorry, Browns fans, but maybe that's how it is. But I am taking you guys to win, and maybe with my luck of how I picked this year, that's exactly what happened. But I am going to take the Cleveland Browns here, +3, and the Cleveland Browns straight up. The next game, Seattle over Arizona. This one to me is just really hard because I thought Dallas's defense was going to play better, and they didn't. And Russell Wilson finally had that offensive line, those 5 guys that stand there, they finally protected him, and they were able to win the game pretty decisively. And also congratulations to Earl Thomas getting his 26th and 27th interception. And it's weird because I remember I told people, I think just 2 weeks ago, I'm not going to take Seattle on the road. They're on the road. They were bad. That's why I took Seattle to lose against Chicago just 2 weeks ago. But things change. As things, evolve, things change. And the Arizona Cardinals finally got rid of Sam Bradford. It was 4 minutes and 31 seconds to go in the fourth quarter of their game. And Josh Rosen, came in. Good luck to the kid. Look, he didn't play that well, but you really can't blame any of that on him. He was in a horrible situation going against the Bears defense. But with it being Rosen's first start, this might bite me in the rear end because Josh Rosen may end up like Baker Mayfield did on last Thursday. But I got to take Seattle. I think Seattle, look, they have a little bit of momentum. They realize now that, look, Jimmy Garoppolo had a big knee injury. Arizona's not that effective. And they could now try to fight for that wild card spot with how weird the entire NFC is. They need this victory because I believe they host the Rams next week, which will probably be a loss, but they need this victory to try to stay alive in their wild card hopes. And I think they'll get it. Maybe again, Josh Rosen may surprise everybody. He may prove that he was the chosen Rosen. But I'm taking Seattle here because I'm going to trust that the Seahawks do enough. I think Josh Rosen makes one or two mistakes that gets, or he can't make one or two plays against this defense that gets the Seahawks this victory in a huge game that kind of helps elevate or basically sink or swim either of those teams' wild card hopes. Sounds like Seattle are -3 and Seattle straight up. The next game, the Saints over the Giants. This one is just because the Saints have won more games than not. Like, if the Giants would have played more consistently, I might have taken the Giants. But they couldn't beat the Jaguars. They got destroyed by Dallas, or they got fundamentally beaten by Dallas. And they had a nice win over Houston, but Houston's a winless team, and that's kind of showing you how that is. At least with the Saints, I have 2 victories, and I know the Saints can score points because they put up in 2 of their 3 games 83 points. And if they have a good enough defensive game, which they should hopefully, unless Odell kills them, the Saints should be able to win this game because they were able to score points at will. They were able to. I'm going to congratulate Drew Brees for setting the NFL record for most completions for a career. He passed Brett Favre on Sunday, and also Michael Thomas for having 38 receptions through 3 games, which is also an NFL record for most receptions in 3 games as well. But I'm going to take the Saints in this game because I just can't trust the Giants. These Saints-Giants games are always weird. They've been competitive and fun the last couple years when you watch them. But I am going to go with the Saints here because I feel like they'll be able to play enough defense or they're going to be able to score enough points to win this game. Just the Giants overall, their line's still not that good. And if Lattimore can do a good enough job against Odell Beckham, the Saints should be able to shut down the rest of the Giants' offense and win the game. Also, the Falcons basically killed them through the air. Yeah, so basically if they take out Odell Beckham, they can win the game. And I think they'll be able to contain them enough for the Saints to win this game. So that's why New Orleans here -3.5 and New Orleans straight up. The next game, the Chargers over San Francisco. This was easy. Jimmy Garoppolo's not there. Jimmy G going down was a huge injury. They said he blew his knee out. That sucks. If the Niners are back now in the basement, TJ Beathard's not going to be the starting quarterback long term, and that's just enough. And also with Richard Sherman going down in a couple weeks for a calf injury himself, that's just too much of a disaster to go up against this Charger team, who very fortunately seems to be put in these situations where they'll have competitive losses and then dominating blowout victories, week to week to week. So, but the LA Chargers should win here. They're more consistent, they're healthier, they have more talent, and they should be able to win this game. Against the San Francisco defense that is not bad, but the Chargers have enough, a little too much offensive firepower and more talent to be able to win this game by a decisive margin. So that's why I like the LA Chargers are -10 and the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, the Ravens over Pittsburgh. I am taking the Baltimore Ravens to win this football game because of Pittsburgh's dysfunction. The Ravens through 3 weeks have played good football. This is the best we've looked since 2012, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to go to the Super Bowl, but we can make the playoffs for the first time and maybe even compete for the division and get maybe to the divisional or championship game in the playoffs maybe. But with everything going on in Pittsburgh, I can't take them. Le'Veon's not there. That defense is banged up. Antonio's going through issues, and until Le'Veon gets back, or until they move on from the Le'Veon Bell saga and they can get over that head, I can't go against them. I can't pick them in a game against a team that's played pretty solid fundamental football. We've converted the most. We have the highest 3rd and 1 conversion percentage. We've scored on every one of our touchdown drives. We have the most accurate kicker in NFL history. The defense has been real solid. We basically, after the first 2 drives, shut out the Broncos for the rest of the game. We're able to run the ball more effectively. Flacco's had one of his better years, in several years. And I'll take that as a whole unit compared to the Steelers, who just right now are just kind of just trying to score enough points to win and are just so dysfunctional that they can't really contain themselves. So that's why I like Baltimore here against the spread and a pick 'em, and Baltimore straight up. And finally, the Chiefs over the Broncos. This is one where I believe in Patrick Mahomes. He is right now the MVP of the league through 3 weeks. I know that might be a little too extreme, but I feel like, again, he's played the most consistent football. He set the NFL record for most touchdown passes without an interception. He set the record for most touchdown passes through 3 games of a season with 13. He's 4-0 as a starter. He gets to go back to the place where he started in Denver, Week 17 last year. And I just think that the Chiefs will be able to outscore the Broncos. It's one of those things where the Broncos had problems with, our offense. With Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, John Brown. Try going up against Tyreek Hill, Chris Conley, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Patrick Mahomes' arm, Patrick Mahomes' mobility. Like, this is a game where I feel like the Chiefs will be able to outscore the Broncos and win a good, fundamental, consistent game to continue to show that right now, if you're looking at the best team in the AFC, I know we did this last year, so, here we go again, but it's fair. The best team in the NFL right now, the best team in the AFC right now is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to take that offense. I am concerned about that defense because giving up 28, 37, 65, and another 27. That is 92 points divided by 3. Let's do that real quick. They're the worst defense in the NFL by far, especially with points. Giving up over 30 points, giving almost up 31 points a game, that will catch up to them some point. But I feel like of how the Broncos are playing, I just feel like they'll be able to just put up enough points or have a good enough lead that even the Broncos start coming back, like the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Niners have done. The Chiefs will be able to score enough points or get field goals or touchdowns to keep that lead at bay to win this game, to get to 4-0. So that's all I Kansas City are -4.5 and Kansas City straight up. So that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, fantasy players, teams, and fellow prognosticators this week. A little bit of fantasy news. The bye season has begun, and the Washington Redskins and Carolina Panthers are both on bye this week. So you have Cam Newton, McCaffrey, Alex Smith, Adrian Peterson, Carolina defense, Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis, Paul Richardson. Any of those players, if you have them on your fantasy teams, bench them because they're not playing this week. And also, please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators page with great people like Gio Knows, Billy B, Logan Schiff, Keith Bailey, TJ Harmon, Andrew Warren, the Electric Mandel Show, and I know I screwed it up, but to Stuart Madison and his crew for all his videos, Bridgewater's Finest. Check out all those guys and gals that make videos just like I do. Most of them probably are at about the same level. The Waterboy Report, they're probably all at about the same level or probably a little bit better at picking this year so far than I've been. So please check them out if you want to see them. But that's it. So until next time, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.